Welcome, Austin Gardeners. My name is Tom Tinguely with the Great Outdoors, and I have here with me today Jill Levine, and she's showing us her lovely South Austin garden.
Thank you for coming, Tom.
Of course. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Biggest tomato I've ever seen.
Summer here is kind of like winter up north. It's when you don't really want to be outside and hardly anything grows. If I were just to grow one variety of tomato, it would be Celebrity. I find it does the best in this climate with the heat. These are Celebrities. I'm not sure why they're a lot smaller than they're supposed to be. I mean, they're supposed to be much bigger. Sometimes I pick them when they're just starting to turn red at the bottom. If I have a bad stink bug population, I'll just let them ripen in the kitchen counter. When you're growing vegetables organically, you need to be okay with having holes chewed into your leaves. So these are Japanese eggplants called pingtung. They do really well here. This other eggplant, because we have the plastic on the winter, this one was planted last spring and it made it through the winter with the protection of the plastic and this heater to produce again this year. Here we've planted tomatoes. They're here because in the past we had tomatoes over in the other bed, so it's good to rotate your crops and move them to a different spot each season. And here our carrots have gone to flower. We should have picked them before now. And then tomatoes and peppers are in the hoop house to get a head start from in the spring when it's still cold out. We'll have plastic on here. And then once it gets hot, we'll put shade cloth to protect it from the sun. Cucumbers we grow in the cages to take up less space. We made our own cages out of cattle panel because it gave us more height than what we could buy at the store. In harvesting basil, we just harvest just above where there's more stems coming up, and I'll just bush out. This basil will be really good with roasted eggplant on a sandwich with brie. Pesto's really easy to make too. Just take the leaves off the basil and put it in a blender or a Cuisinart, and then add some olive oil, some toasted nuts, a bunch of garlic, and some Parmesan cheese, and that's it. And in the winter you can do it with cilantro. I always really liked plants. The very first children's book I really remember having was one called Hole in the Garden Fence, where all the characters were vegetables. The first house I rented, I didn't get my deposit back because I tilled up the front yard and put in a vegetable garden. They had recently sodded it, so they weren't very happy. And then I moved here and I started off with a very small garden, and it just slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger. We've had these dewberries 4 years now. We started off with 3 plants and just kept propagating them. Okay, so on the dewberry, to propagate it, we could take this one here and bend it down and actually just put a rock on top of it. And you could make it just a tiny little cut in the stem, and it's going to root into the ground And once it starts putting on new growth and is rooted in, I can just cut it off at the main plant and have a new plant. A couple of years ago on Earth Day, Michael Pollan wrote an article about the best thing that everybody could do to help with global warming was to put in a vegetable garden. So putting in a vegetable garden, I think with, with us having solar panels and using a clothesline, it's kind of one of those, that thing that kind of makes me feel like we're doing our part to make the world just a little bit better. Not just being users, but giving back. Especially when we're able to grow enough to share with coworkers and friends. The fact that we can go to the grocery store and walk past the produce section. I'm proud of that. A great reference to use when you're a first-time gardener is to look at gardening blogs. There's a lot of garden blogs. Austin, I read, had the most garden blogs of any other city in the U.S. If you go to Botanical, which is like botanical but with an L, they list all the garden blogs in the U.S. So you can find out which ones are in Austin, and it's a great way of just knowing what to plant or what to do at different times of the year. If you have any questions, you can email us at gonursery.com. Thanks for coming and touring my yard. It's been really nice showing you everything that I love about my space. See ya! It's locked.